Hello viewers, welcome to this program, and in the program of today we'll be trying to look at paper 2, English paper 2, and of course I'm talking about literary appreciation. We'll be looking at the poem The Kraal, and it is going to help us see how at times we need to be the techniques we need to be putting in when answering question 2 of paper 2 English. Given that it is a poem that carries 20 marks, it is quite vast, it is quite large, it is quite involving, it tests quite many areas, and therefore it's almost like a comprehension. Some of the marks are just directly as the ones you could get in a comprehension. So when we're looking at this poem, The Kraal, it will be helping us to try and visit some of these areas, but more importantly, it will be giving us opportunity to get to look at tone, try to understand something to do with the information that relates to the general understanding of a poem once you've done the reading, and as well giving us the ability to make a right interpretation of a poem, be it whichever kind of poem it may be. So we go through it very quickly and then we'll get to the questions. The Kraal. The Kraal fence hides quarrels of jealous wives. It hides the miseries within and sadness of wives fallen from favor. It excludes anyone beyond its gate. That reed fence spells laughter, joy, and happiness to the outside, but hides the cruelty of the husband within. To the tortured, tormented wife, the sad one full of woes, the favored one full of ease and joy. Yes, that reed fence hides plenty. Maybe we have to start with the title, Kraal. This is a South African word that is used many a times to refer to traditional homesteads. And you know that the traditional homesteads always had a fence around them. They had a fence that rings the compound, a fence that excludes the outside from the inside. And that is what this poem is trying to tell us, the Kraal fence. And if you look at the structure of this poem, it's like we have lines that are contradicting. One that starts from right next to the margin, and another one slightly away from the margin. And there is a good reason to it. This way of having the lines start in this kind of zigzag manner as a reason to it. And maybe once we get to these poems, maybe we need to be getting it clearer. But one important thing that we need to look at or understand is that we are trying to be given what is happening in the homestead and what is happening from outside. From inside, it may be looking like, from inside, we are given the first part of this poem is giving us what is happening inside. The inside is always not as peaceful as people may think. That fence, that kraal, reed fence, is hiding what is happening inside. But then those who are outside could be imagining that it's a place that is a place of peace, a place of serenity, a place of happiness. And we fail to get that when we read these contradicting lines. So when we go to this poem, there are three things that happen in the Kraal that are excluded from the outside world. Yeah, when you read from here, stanza 1 here, okay, it's almost is single stanza, but if you read line 1, line 2, line 3, line 5 to around line 6, you'll be getting certain things there. Hides quarrels. So this is one of the points we will have. This hides quarrels. This is one of the things we'll get there. It hides miseries. Is another second thing. And then it hides wives fallen from favor. There are women or their wives who are not in very good terms with their husbands. This Kraal fence is hiding them from us. So, hides wives fallen from favor. These are 3 points that we get straight away from the poem, and that is echoing what I said earlier, that you can have direct questions from the poem as it is, and a question demands exactly you lift and place there, like we've lifted the 3 here. That you get the 3 things that are happening here, and they are inside a kraal fence, inside that compound, and therefore the outside world is not aware of exactly what is happening inside. And when we begin here downwards, it's like the poem is telling us what the outside thinks. It excludes everyone beyond its gates, meaning those who are outside cannot exactly know what is happening inside. And from the inside, from the outside, people are seeing exactly the opposite, that maybe we could be having spells of laughter, joy, and that all the good, the happiness is what is expected to be inside, to be happening inside, but it is exactly the opposite. So we get all that piece of information coming all the way there, so that at it all we are seeing elements like contradiction. These are contradiction. First half giving us something different. When we go to the second half, we get completely different information. According to the poem, how would you say that the reed fence is misleading? The reed fence is misleading as in it is hiding what is happening inside, so that we do not exactly know what is happening inside. Instead, what we see is a complete contrast. Therefore, we would say that the reed fence is contradictory of what exactly takes place inside. So at times we may just decide to say that kind of quite contradictory of what we see, and therefore it qualifies to be misleading. What it is showing us is not exactly what is happening in the kraals. Therefore, it's like a shroud, something that is covering the outside from what is inside, and therefore misleading. As good as nicely as it may stand, it may be standing there, it is not giving us what is happening inside. So it is quite hypocritical or contradictory, so to say. Explain the significance of the stylistic devices used. Identify and explain the stylistic. Identify and explain the significance of the stylistic devices used in the poem. Yes, this poem has a number of stylistic devices, and maybe we'll address ourselves to just a few. For example, there is the use of the reed fence. Reed fence has been used here severally, and there is a good reason to it. We have reed fence, that reed fence. What are they talking about it? And then we equally have fence here. You know, it becomes very significant as repetition. Repetition of that reed fence. It becomes very significant in providing us what we call the irony. It is helping in building irony, as in that fence is cutting us from the inside, so that our perception of what is happening inside is exactly the opposite of what is happening inside. Therefore, we are seeing repetition important in enabling us to see the kind of irony or the oppositeness of what we think is happening inside. So that is one of the stylistic aspects that we can have there. And then we can have what we call contrast. as a style. And you know, contrast, at times we may just say juxtaposition. In this style, we have two opposing sides that are put side by side, or two opposing situations that are put side by side, so that we're able to see what exactly is the difference there. So like here we have the contrasting of the inside and the outside. And this is brought out very well by the Kraal fence. The Kraal fence lets us to see what is happening the outside and the perception of the outside of what is happening inside. And then when we are inside, we see the inside also giving completely the opposite of what the outsiders think is happening inside. Outsiders think inside is peaceful and happy, but when we go right inside, we see completely different information there. So it is there also very important in providing the kind of, it's significant in providing that contradiction that we find in the poem. And then when we talk about tone, and as I said in the earlier program, when we talk about tone, we are talking about the quality of voice by the persona. And this quality of voice is trying to give us the perception, the point of view, the feelings of the person presenting the information here. So that in this particular poem, we can be talking about satirical tone. This person is telling some truth laughingly, that though things look very nice from outside, they look fancy, they just wow from outside, inside is a completely different story. It has everybody passing and looking at that fence and looking at how nice it is and how people inside could be living happily. And we find exactly the opposite. And therefore, it is addressing the satirical tone that whatever that we are seeing may not be exactly what is happening inside there. So that we may even be concluding with a saying like, never judge a book from its cover. So satirical tone is what we have for this poem. So viewers, we need to stop at that point, and at least using this poem, we've been able to look at a few kind of questions that we can find ourselves tackling when it is paper 2. Cheers.